Hey everyone, it's Summer with AstariaSen here, and today we are going to talk about beginner tarot decks. Now this is going to be a VR/hashtag tag for Pappa Squirrel, who started a series on his channel talking about beginner decks, yay or nay. He's talking this month about the Rider-Waite system, which is often called RWS in the tarot community. And it is a traditional structured tarot system, and a lot of tarot decks are based off of it, with traditional artwork even. I do not own a traditional Rider-Waite tarot deck. I own stuff that's close to it, like the Ethereal Visions, which he talked about in his video. And if the problem with the traditional forms for me is I don't like the artwork on a lot of the traditional forms. The artwork on this, though, is a little bit more modernized than it is on a traditional regular Rider-Waite, like Universal Rider-Waite or anything like that. It's a little more blingy. It's got like a gold foil on it, which helps make it stand out. And I do like the artwork on it. Yes, it is traditional form still, but the artwork has been more modernized for the deck. And maybe even for the new style in, more recent times. This is not one I generally work with, but it is one I do own and will plan on working with eventually. I'm just not a fan of the Rider-Waite style decks in general. I like more non-traditional forms of Rider-Waite, and I find them easier to work with. But that's what we're talking about, right, is beginner decks. So I'm a beginner. I'm just going to put that out there. I've been doing tarot for about a year. That's about as long as I've been doing tarot. I've owned a deck for almost 10 years, but I didn't actually start doing anything with it until this last year, until 2019. So it was hard for me at first with beginner decks because I didn't know what was a beginner deck and I didn't know what wasn't a beginner deck. And not everybody's version of beginner deck is a beginner deck. And some people would find something easy that a beginner might not. And as a beginner, I'm here to tell you about the beginner decks for me. The ones that have worked for me, why I find them to be good beginner decks, and what I value about them. So, I started out actually in Oracle. I got the Amy Brown, actually, I have it back here, the Amy Brown Fairy Wisdom Oracle deck. And that's the only deck I'd owned for like 10 years. And I'd barely done anything with it. I didn't know the difference between tarot and Oracle when I even started using it. I didn't even realize there was a difference. I thought all tarot cards were just tarot cards. Oracle tarot cards, regular tarot cards, I thought they were all the same, but they're not. Oracle cards are a lot less in the amount of cards. They can range from anywhere from like 20 to 60 cards, and a tarot deck is 78. Sometimes a little bit more if you're getting specialty cards with like a special sale or special art or something like that. Not the point, but still, I mean, they can vary. So Oracle are big overviews. I feel like they work well in conjunction with a tarot deck. Oracles are sometimes easier to read for some people because you don't actually have to memorize a whole lot, because an oracle is based off the system of artwork that the author and artist made it in. For example, this one right here is the Faerie Reflection Paulina Cassidy Oracle deck, okay? This is the book that goes with it. It's a very elaborate book. And the cards are really easy. You have the name of the card down here, then you have the picture, and then you have the basic like description keywords. Confidence is having the belief in yourself to keep you going, and the self-assurance to get you there. These would be really easy cards for you to read for yourself or somebody else, whether you're doing daily polls, a 3-card spread, or something like that. I do not feel like these are like an in-depth tarot reading, though. These are like an overview, like a, big bubble picture kind of thing. And the tarot cards are for the everyday stuff, or, the more details that you want in something. At least that's the difference to me. So Oracle decks can be a lot easier for people to read. I did start out with an oracle deck, but I am not a super big fan of oracle decks. I prefer tarot decks. That is just what I prefer. But that doesn't mean I don't like oracles. I very much enjoy my fairy oracles quite a bit, actually. I have a lot of fairy oracles, and I like using them with my tarot deck spreads. So the ones that in tarot that I started off with, other than the oracle, is the Ostara Tarot. And I do believe the Ostara, which is a very, very pretty deck, is based more in the Rider-Waite style, the RWS style. Now, I got to pull this deck out because it's been in a box for a little while because I don't really use it that often. The artwork on it is not traditional though. Like, this is the Death card, and I'll pull out the Death card in the Ethereal Visions so you can kind of see it, the difference in it, because it's pretty big difference. So there it is. So this is more traditional, and this one is non-traditional, but both are structured in the RWS style. And that means that the deck itself, the artwork, and what's inside the deck talks more on the structure of the Rider-Waite system. I'm not going to pretend to understand all of the Rider-Waite system because I'm still learning it. That's, to be perfectly honest, I am still learning it. They have a set of things that you can learn and memorize and just kind of be able to do your tarot decks based off of that. And a lot of like little tarot decks, well, they're not little, they're regular sized tarot decks. This is also based off the Rider-Waite system too. But they have these little books in them right here, and they're not very detailed. It's not as detailed as this Ostara one. I mean, this is huge, right? This is a giant book. But a lot of decks you'll find, especially as a beginner, and you pick up these little boxes because they're a lot cheaper than a lot of the bigger decks or a lot of the newer decks. And you get these little tiny just white versions that have probably multiple languages in them. And it's under the understanding, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day, it's under the understanding that you already understand, or you already know or are familiar with the Rider-Waite structure, the Rider-Waite system. Because they'll only give you a little bit of details. They just tell you, for example, like the King of Swords, a mature man of power with good instincts and high morals. Means command, authority, and determination. It just basically gives you this list of keywords, and then you have to come up with your interpretation from that based off the Rider-Waite system, plus what they give you in this little tiny book. However, when you have a bigger book, like the Ostara version, and this one, it gives you a little bit more meaning. And for me, I think it'd be something a little bit easier for a beginner to learn. The art on it, on the other hand, is not necessarily easier to learn. I don't find the art easy at all, not on my eyes or anything else. The art in traditional forms of art is better if you're learning the Rider-Waite system. And some decks are better than other decks in the artwork, like what you're capable of dealing with and what you're not capable of dealing with. But that also goes into you as a person, because you have to do what's best for you. That's the whole basic idea of being a beginner, is that you're learning the things that you like in a tarot deck and the things that you want in a tarot deck or an oracle deck. You don't have to like a tarot in order to use oracle, and you don't have to use oracle in order to like tarot, or any, whatever. That's just all going to be based off what you want to do in your style of it. Now, my favorite deck is the Shadowscapes tarot deck. It's a very beautiful deck. It's also a non-traditional art form, and I do not think that it is based off the Rider-Waite system. So I'm going to show you that one, or some art from it, but I'm going to say that it's not basically Rider-Waite, but I do think that it is a good beginner deck. It's one of my favorite beginner decks, actually, that I've been using for months and months and months. And once I found it, I knew it was my deck. Like, you just have to keep trying until you find the ones that work for you. Now, I like it because it has beautiful artwork, okay? Very, very beautiful artwork. It's kind of watercolor based, and it does have like a feel kind of the Rider-Waite system. Like here's the Hanged Man, and it is the guy who's upside down, okay? And then I have decks where the guy's not upside down. I have decks where the guy or the person is wrapped up in weird stuff, and you're trying to interpret why they're wrapped up in this. But that's different. This is based more on the Rider-Waite system, with the man hanging upside down, the Hanged Man, and he's looking at it from a different perspective. But it leaves so much up for interpretation. That's why I consider it non-traditional. And less Rider-Waite style. Then there's the harder decks to interpret. And for me, and some people are probably going to disagree with me, but to be perfectly honest, I think the Wild Unknown is probably one of the worst decks for beginners. I have the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit. Well, actually, it's my daughter's. I'm borrowing it to do this video. And it is not easy. Like, the Oracle deck is not easy for me, so I know. And I've seen the Tarot deck for the Wild Unknown as well. I've had readings done with it on me, and I've looked through it in other shops, because there's a local shop here that we can just look through the cards, and they're borrowed cards. Well, not necessarily borrowed cards. They're secondhand cards is what they are. And so we do tarot readings once a week for other people in class style, and you learn how to read tarot. And there are people that use the Wild Unknown there. And it's very much this kind of artwork, okay? But it's not really up for interpretation, and a lot of it is hard to kind of figure out. This one is the Oracle version of it, and I prefer reading intuitively, and I cannot read these intuitively, and that may be why they are so hard for me. But if I also look at the book for the Wild Unknown Oracle Animal Spirit, it doesn't give me a lot to go from either. This is the book. Like, it literally folds out like this, and these are your descriptions. It is just a couple of sentences, like the bear, waking up, beginning anew. That's all there is. There's nothing else to help you interpret the cards, and all that is on the card is a picture of a bear. Could that be easy for some? I guess it could be. I don't find it valuable as a beginner, though, because you're not really learning how to interpret cards that way. And I think that's the big thing about tarot, is that people want to learn how to do it. So I guess it's a give and take. It's all in what you are and are not willing to deal with in cards. The artwork can be very, very pretty and still be hard to read. The artwork can be super, super fun and still hard to read. And then you have the other ones, and the one that I think is like the best deck for beginners ever, other than my Shadowscapes, because that's just me, but that's for me. But for other people, the one I suggest for other people is actually the Everyday Witch Tarot. And the reason why is because, yes, it is based off the Rider-Waite system. However, the artwork is also very modern, very fun, and engaging artwork. It's easy to read both intuitively and via just your regular structure, which is good, because that means that you can learn how to do it using, you know, the book, the RWS style, and then you can start learning how to interpret the cards intuitively if you feel like you want to go intuitive. So this can go both ways, and that's why I think it's one of the perfect decks for a beginner. Really, it is one of the perfect decks for a beginner. My daughter uses this one, and she found it, and yes, she likes a lot of other decks, but this is the one. This is her go-to tarot deck, and I think that it works really well because it's relatable, it's understandable, it has a good book that goes with it, you know, those kind of things. So that would be my suggestion. If you are brand new to tarot, you do not know what you're doing, you don't even know what you like, go grab the Everyday Witch Tarot, because it has fun art, it has good meanings, you can learn from it, and you can learn the RWS style as well. And then later on, you'll be able to use it also intuitively if you decide to go that route to be intuitive. Some people prefer to just read from the book, and some people never read from the book and only read intuitive. So either way that you want to go, the Everyday Witch is one of the best ones for that, in my personal opinion. And if you're going to go Oracle instead of Tarot, that one's a lot harder. I think that if you find an Oracle card, like the ones I showed you, the Paulina Faerie reflection ones that give you this meaning down here, is good. And if you do want to read it intuitively, you could look at the picture and consider what is going on in the picture and read it more intuitively without reading the description at all, even though the description is on the card. So technically it could work both ways, and a lot of oracles, there is a lot of oracles you can do that with, and then there's a lot of oracles that just don't work that way. So it's just all a matter of what you really like, and finding an art style that you enjoy, because that's what's going to make it enjoyable for you. So if your first one doesn't work out, it's okay. It really, really is. And some of these can be really higher end. So until you kind of learn which decks you like and what you like in decks, don't go out and buy, you know, the $75 deck that looks neat because somebody else did a walkthrough on it. Buy a deck that's, you know, 20 bucks, see if you like it, 20, 30 bucks, see if you like it, and then go from there. Or even trade somebody. Or you can ask for it as a gift for Yule or Christmas or your birthday, or, you know, something like that. And then you can try it out and see if you like it that way. There are a lot of people as a beginner that they'll tell you that, you know, the deck isn't worth it unless you're gifted it first and stuff like that. I think that is a traditional notion of tarot, I don't really view it that way personally. I don't think that you have to be gifted a deck in order to use it. I think you can find a deck all on your own, and I do think that decks do find you as well. And that's a whole nother story and has nothing to do with exactly beginner tarot decks. So this is my version of the beginner tarot video. The decks that I would suggest and not suggest based off what I have in my tarot library. I do have some walkthroughs on my channel if you want to go through and look at some of them just to see if you like the artwork and stuff like that. I do some reviews on tarot decks that I have worked with, and there are always going to be tarot decks that somebody says is easy and just isn't for you, and that's okay. It really is. It's perfectly okay. And if one of the ones look like it's harder and you get it and you decide you just really like the artwork and you want to work with it anyways, do it. It's okay. You just have to learn what's best for you, and that's the best way to do it, is just to learn what calls to you, to do what feels right in your heart, in your soul, for what you're working with. And if you don't even know what feels right in your soul, that's okay too. It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly natural. And all you got to do is just pick up something that you're kind of attracted to, that you may just like the artwork in or something like that, and then just go from there and see how it works out for you. Tarot's not always the easiest thing to learn, especially if you're learning a specific style. There are several different styles. There's the Thoth style, the Rider-Waite system, and the Marseille, and I think there's one more, but oh yeah, the Lenormand style too. So there are a lot of different styles, but this is just talking about the Rider-Waite, the RWS system. So I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any suggestions of beginner tarot decks, if you are a seasoned tarot person and stuff like that, and you feel like you want to jump in here and say, you know, hey, this deck is for beginners and why, go for it. Write down there in the comments. Do it, because when people are reading or watching these videos, they tend to start looking in the comments to see what people are saying. And if you think you know a deck that is good for beginners, I highly recommend putting it in the comments and just putting that information out there, or doing a VR with the rest of us, or anybody else who wants to join, I guess. Again, this is something that I found on Pappa Squirrel's channel. He did this originally, and he's going to make it a thing every month, and I'm going to try to do it with him every single month. And I think that it'll be a good quality section to give to the tarot community and beginners. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you had fun. I hope it was a little bit amusing, but a lot of information that you can use and take with you, and hopefully it benefits you to the best of whatever it is that you need. So blessed be.